Another concern that we're hearing from current students is that their spring internships or their current internships have been cut short because of the pandemic. Nick, I know that you have a similar experience, so can you kind of talk us through your situation and what action you took?
Sure. So I was fortunate enough to have an internship with the Spurs starting last fall and continuing to what was supposed to be the end of spring. Obviously, with everything going on, the internship was cut short. I had to move back to Southern California. And so I've kind of had to do two different things. First, I kind of had to figure out how to leave that internship on a positive note. So, I was making phone calls not only to thank the people I've been working with, but to kind of get that constructive criticism, what I can do better for the next internship. That consisted of writing handwritten thank you notes, which I think every student should be doing every time they have that professional point of contact. And just kind of try to plan going forward how to keep that open line of communication, keep that conversation going, letting them know that I'm interested if an opportunity were to arise in the coming weeks or months, and kind of looking when I get back to San Antonio, how do I keep that relationship going, whether that's getting coffee or lunch. But kind of looking forward, I was wondering if Dr. Tingle and Katie, you guys have any advice for alternative experiences for these canceled internships that either cut short or will be canceled in the future? Is there something that we can be doing to boost our resumes? Obviously, we won't have maybe that specific internship experience, but what other opportunities are there out there for students right now?
A couple kind of suggestions. First, if you find out that your upcoming internship is canceled, know that we are continuing to receive internship postings in Handshake. Many of those have moved virtual, and you'll kind of see remote, sometimes in the title, sometimes in the description. So we have in our center expedited the approval of positions that are coming in. So we're still getting jobs, internships, all that fun stuff. So maybe it's looking for something alternative. If it really can't be an internship or a job, even looking at volunteer opportunities, I think a lot of times students don't necessarily realize the value of what that brings to a future employer. They think of it, you're doing good for the community, but really thinking of it more as a skill development tool. And so especially right now, nonprofits are going to need folks, whether you're in business, accounting, marketing, whatever it is, there are needs out there. Nonprofits tend to be pretty flexible. So it could be that you're helping remotely to edit grant applications if you have some of that experience. Maybe it's a whole range of other things, creating flyers or marketing materials. If you fast forward a few years to a future employer, when they're considering your background, they don't care if it was paid or unpaid. They don't care if it was a job, an internship, or community service. What they care about are the skills that you're bringing to the table and how well you can connect what you've done to what they need you to potentially do. So in that way, something like a volunteer experience can be very enriching, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be long-term. It can be helping with a fundraiser or something like that. But needless to say, one of the things that comes out of any kind of tragedy or crisis situation is a need for social service. And so we do anticipate that in the future, not only will there be more opportunities to volunteer, but also on the job side, there will be more nonprofits. A lot of it we still have to figure out the funding because there's a lot yet to be seen, but something to consider.
Yeah, and along that, again, I just provided in the chat our community engagement team has put together a document with resources for virtual service, right? So the idea, right, if I'm stuck at home, how can I do service? And so I'm really pleased and proud of the work that Savannah has done and her team on putting together these opportunities for virtual volunteering. And again, to reiterate Katie's point, it doesn't matter if it's paid or unpaid and or whatever, but if there's ways for you to demonstrate a concern for people while also developing some skills, while also potentially expanding and forming some really great relationships, that can be an effective use of the summer. That CEO that we just had speak to a class, one of our students asked this question: what are characteristics of top performers in your organization? And he said, not in any particular order, but he said passion, character, and curiosity. And he went on to define curiosity, or describe curiosity, as people who are constantly learning, people who are inquisitive, and people who can have new ideas. So I think if you can put yourself in situations where you can demonstrate an inquisitiveness, demonstrate some ways to be a unique problem solver, even if it's just asking a question, what if, or how do we do this, or is there a different way to deliver this product or this service, and then volunteerism is an outstanding way, if done genuinely, to demonstrate the kind of character that you have, and your commitment to kind of the greater good. So those are things that I would really encourage you to look at, is not only some of those micro opportunities that I discussed earlier, but how can you demonstrate a real awareness that that our neighbors need our help, and that can go a long way later to describing or demonstrating for a future employer what kind of person you are.
I really like what you both had to say about that, and about maybe doing things that aren't necessarily conventional internships. And so that made me think about maybe students who still are relying on a source of income that they would hope that they would get from their internship or something like that. And maybe there are things such as, working at HEB or fast food gas stations, or things that are really in high demand right now. Online tutoring for a lot of students who are now in the homeschool situation instead of being public schooled. And I think those are also great ways to boost your resume while earning an income that might be essential.
Bailey, I think that's a really outstanding point, and I appreciate you bringing that up. One of the things that I often talk to my colleagues about, not just at Trinity but nationally, is how important work in the service sector is and can be. And so, I mean, you're spot on, right? HEB's hiring, whoever your local grocery store is, wherever you are, is hiring. And those opportunities to be in people-facing positions can be, I mean, the interpersonal skills that you can learn through those experiences can be massive, and in particular, in order to set you apart from folks who maybe have quote unquote hard skills but don't have what I'm trying. I read an article in Inc. magazine once, and the woman who wrote the article is calling them power skills, what some people call soft skills. And I like the idea of power skills as being the things that actually are the differentiators. So I love that idea, and especially, at least from my conversations over the last 2 decades with Trinity students, there are a lot of students who do work service industry jobs, whether it's, no one's waiting tables right now, but those kind of frontline service jobs. But then there are a whole lot of other students who don't look to jobs in those sectors because they don't feel like it's sexy enough on the resume, right? Or a power punch on the resume. And maybe because of where we are now, this can be a really great time for people to figure out there's a lot to be learned from those kind of jobs that maybe we should have all been looking at all along anyway.
And just to add on that, so in career services, we obviously look at a lot of resumes for students. It's not uncommon for us to see resumes that maybe don't have a lot of experience, but we talk to the student and we find out they were working retail or in food service. And kind of like Jacob said, they just don't think that it's relevant. And that's what we can help with, right? So we can help kind of tease out what were those transferable skills or those power skills? How can that apply to different kinds of employers in different industries? The key is to get the experience. I mean, communication is important in any career field, and all of those front service, part-time opportunities are going to give you those opportunities to develop that skill, really hone it if you've already had some experience. But don't discount it. There are a lot of positions like that in Handshake. We're continuing to, like I said earlier, continuing to receive those.
Right, and also talking on remote summer opportunities, I will be personally working through a remote internship for the summer for a company that's based out of downtown San Antonio called CodeUp. I know I've seen a lot of resources on my LinkedIn feed as well as in other places about companies that are looking to hire interns remotely, as Dr. Tinkle kind of touched on earlier. So I definitely think that that's another option that students could look into if they're really interested in having an internship this summer.
And just if I can jump in just on that point, I know there's a couple of different members of the experiential learning career success team who are reaching out specifically to employers now and encouraging them to make sure that if they are or when they're creating those jobs, that they're both posting them and making sure that it's clear that those jobs are posted as remote, especially like Dr. Rodriguez in our office is doing that with internship sites right now. And just so being proactive to solicit those opportunities for organizations so they know our students are still hungry to work and to gain experience. So yeah, I just want to make sure that you know that we're working behind the scenes to get some of those opportunities posted.